Often when people think about self-isolation, they associate that with self-destructiveness. They think that if they have time to themselves, they will all of a sudden develop some sort of social anxiety and they will just be deep within themselves, not able to escape their own thoughts. When I think about self-isolation, I think about being cleansed, being healed. How often do many of you even get a chance to have time to yourself? I have said it before and I'll say it again. You'll always learn so much about you once you are alone. Every single one of us have that thought in the back of our head where we tell ourselves that we need somebody in our presence 24/7. Or at least most people have that thought, not everybody. But you would be surprised how well you could do if you were just by yourself. Now, self-isolation gets to a point at first where it is just a character study on your character. You will learn so much more about yourself than when you were in social environments. It's crazy. But when you practice it too much, too extensively, that's when it becomes a problem. That's when you do actually become even more socially awkward than you were. You don't know how to function because you are keeping yourself away from people. Self-isolation works best, well, it has worked best for myself when I used it as time to heal and take time for me. And the greatest lesson I have learned from staying to myself, staying in my own lane, is that distance is really the answer to everything. Whenever you have a big juicy dilemma on your hands, you never really have that time to think. But when you put distance, when you add that to the equation, all of a sudden everything is clear because you have more time to think. Distance allows time. Distance allows a clear mind and it gives you reflection. That is the word I was looking for when I was talking about self-isolation. You have a lot of time to reflect on yourself. When you take distance from someone to something, you don't have to deal with funny vibes. You don't get yourself in problems because it is just you and you only, because you have distanced yourself, not by force, but by choice. The best thing about distance is you get to choose how far or how close you want to be to something. If somebody is acting weird, if somebody starts acting funny with me, they're a close friend or whatever, and I don't like the vibe they're giving off, or they're saying certain things that I'm not really liking, instead of me just getting hot-headed and cutting them off, something that I am well known for, I can easily just take distance from that person for a while, and I'll come back when I want to, because then I'm going to have a clear mind, then I can think about it and I won't be so hot. The same goes for any other situation. Instead of you being hot-headed and thinking in a moment, once you take distance to something, once you apply that distance and you say, hold on a second, and you put something to your arm's length, that is when you cure your impulsiveness. A lot of you are entertaining / putting up with situations and people that, I'm going to be honest with, are not even worth your time, and you are taking on unnecessary stress. What you need to do is honestly take a step back. A lot of the times, when you take a step back, you really think to yourself, man, how did I end up here? Man, how am I in this situation with this person? This doesn't even make any sense. I don't know why everyone thinks that they need to be moving forward full throttle every single time to do with every single thing. I can't stress to you enough how important it is to sometimes take that step back, to sometimes sit behind the driver's seat for once. How many of you could raise your hand and say that you have felt lost when it comes to knowing who you truly are? I definitely have more than once. What worked for me was honestly distancing myself from everything. Distancing myself from my phone, from people. I had to do it. I had to figure out who I was. There is nothing worse than somebody saying they know you better than you know yourself. I truly believe that when you know yourself, then you could never end up in problems with anybody because nobody could tell you anything because you know who you truly are. You know how far you are willing to go. You know your morals, and you know what you will and will not do, because you know you. When you are alone, you will figure out who you are. You will learn the most about you. No one could ever and should ever be able to say that they know you better than you know yourself. When it is just you, you can study yourself, study what you like, what you dislike. You can finally stop trying to fight and speak, and finally start to listen to the only person that matters, you. If I'm being honest with myself, I have always been struggling to accept the fact that maybe being lonely is a form of freedom. Free from influence, free from stupidity, free from anger, free. Just you alone, free. And I'm not gonna lie, sometimes that lonely feeling does try and creep up back to me, even when I'm around my loved ones. Sometimes it does try and creep up. Then I have to remember that those days are long behind me. Me longing for some sort of connection with somebody else. Those days are long gone, because those were the days where I didn't choose to be in my own presence. I was forced to. But it is completely different when you choose to be in your own presence, when you choose to stick to yourself for once because you don't do it enough. That is when you truly have that freedom. I've made videos on loneliness before if you want to check them out, and I probably will later down the line again. I was just briefly touching on it. But honestly, you do feel free because nothing is binding you when you are choosing to stay away from certain things. You're staying up out of the mix. You're staying out of all of the BS that can surround you and consume us sometimes when we do not need it. Sometimes to fully focus, you need to be focusing on yourself. Please focus on yourself. I tell myself every day that time is gonna pass anyway. So why not sometimes give things time? Realistically, we have to understand that time heals all, and distance grants you that time that you need. I don't know about you, but I'm hot-headed and I'm impulsive. As much as I want to act like I'm chill all the time and I've always got everything under control, I obviously do not. Distance is something that I have practiced, and I can say that I have seen benefits from it. And it doesn't mean you have to be locked up in your room and you have to stay away from people forever. You can practice too much self-isolation when you are not doing it correctly. Even though there isn't a set correct way, but you know exactly what I mean. I honestly believe that distance is the answer to everything. And if you don't believe me, why not give it a try yourself? Anyway, that's me for today. I'm going to catch you tomorrow as always. My God.